going to be such a public safety risk. I mean, do you want your family driving in a car, a minivan, next to a vehicle not being operated by a human? I don't.
The inclusion of such technology, even if it's level 5, is not going to be displacing anyone's jobs. So this is a red herring. It's a baseless threat that I don't believe in.
At a Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation hearing on July 22nd, leaders from the trucking industry convened to talk about how autonomous trucks could impact the industry. Senator Peters of Michigan started his line of questioning by asking Sean O'Brien, president of the Teamsters Union, and Chris Spear, CEO of the American Trucking Associations, about their views. O'Brien was most concerned about the loss of jobs to automation, while Spear argued that automation would help the U.S. compete better.
So my question for both of you is, can each of you please expand on perhaps the top 2 or 3 principles that you believe must be addressed by Congress or regulators in a federal autonomous vehicle framework? Mr. O'Brien, would you kick that off, please?
Yes, I appreciate this opportunity. Our biggest fight whenever we go to the bargaining table with any and all industries is automation. Automation is a real threat to American jobs, and we feel strongly that the biggest threat to the trucking industry is autonomous commercial vehicles not requiring human operators. So that's a priority, to make certain that we have human operators in these vehicles. And I know some people think it's not coming for a long time, but either way, whether it comes tomorrow or 20 years from now, we have to be prepared. And protecting good middle-class jobs is important. You know, I think there was a statistic set out here today, 3.5 million drivers right now. Well, if we replace 3.5 million drivers, where do they go and what do they do? And more importantly, it's a public safety issue. We've talked to many law enforcement groups regarding their concerns regarding autonomous commercial vehicles. And it's a real concern if you have a family of 4 driving down the road. Right now, the best computer and the best reaction is a human operator. And we've all seen how in certain situations where technology has failed in testing of such vehicles with autonomous drivers. And lastly, we talk about all this investment that we make in infrastructure. And if we allow autonomous vehicles to be heavier, longer, and no requirement or expanded requirements of when they can travel on the roads, that is going to be a detrimental effect to ridges, off-ramps, and roads moving forward. So we think those are the top 3 threats. More importantly, it's the jobs. Where do we put these people that have depended upon driving commercial vehicles, providing goods and services to this country? And I think there's no better example than what we went through during the pandemic, where truck drivers, regardless of whether you were union or non-union or independent, we were all looked upon as essential workers providing goods and services to this country. And we are not assets, we are human beings that provided these goods and services so that this country could keep moving. And I think we should be appreciated, not forgotten, and the investment should be made to protect these jobs, not replace them.
Very good. Mr. Spear.
Yeah, I think you, ranking member, know full well there's 5 levels of automation. The first 4 require a driver, engaged in the operation of the commercial vehicle. Level 5 is driverless. We're a long ways from deploying that widespread. We're going to see some, operations down in the Southwest where it makes sense. The weather is accommodating for that sort of activity. Maybe not so much in Wyoming and Nebraska, where I'm from. So, you're going to see this crop up. But I think to point out, the levels 1 through 4 really improve safety performance, not just for the company and the driver, but for the motoring public. There's some really good elements of technology that we need to continue to foster. Level 5, before we even get to that, I think is important. This also comes down to the driver shortage. If you believe it or you don't believe it, it's a fact. It's a fact. We watch it nationwide. We have the largest number of drivers under our membership. We know the demand for these drivers. And if there is a shortage, the inclusion of such technology, even if it's level 5, is not going to be displacing anyone's jobs. So this is a red herring. It's a baseless threat that I don't believe in, and our industry's proven that. Last thing, in terms of automation, the modes are intermodal now. Okay, my industry includes all ports. We support them. Rail, we're locked arms now. The automation of ports, if you looked at the ILA negotiations that just happened for the East Coast and Gulf Coast ports, and include the ILWU on the West Coast, 65 ports in the United States, and not one of them ranks in the top 50 in the world for productivity, efficiency. We cannot compete. We cannot get the throughput that the president wants in and out of these ports if we don't utilize technology. And you can do it without displacing union jobs. So we need both, is the point.
Senator Cruz followed up with more questions to both witnesses who reiterated their concerns.
Mr. O'Brien, I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to what Mr. Spear said, particularly talking about levels 1 through 4 of automation and what your view and the Teamsters' view is on levels of automation that fall short of removing the driver. What is y'all's view on that?
I'm not familiar with 1 through 5, what he's talking about, but I can talk about the threat. You know, we talk about automation, and I drove a truck my entire life. I drove oversized loads. I hauled heavy equipment, both interstate and interstate. And, you know, there's no better brain or better computer than your brain or your instinct. Now, we understand technology is coming, and we're not trying to impede any type of technology that is going to make business more efficient. Our sole goal is to protect these jobs and to make certain that people that don't have the opportunity to go to college, that don't have the opportunity to get high, you know, white-collar jobs, have the opportunity in the trucking industry. I'm a 4th-generation truck driver, and I've seen firsthand how important it is to maintain these jobs at the highest level. If we try and replace human operators with computers, I think, one, it's going to be detrimental to recruiting new drivers, which further would give credibility to a driver shortage because the uncertainty of the industry. Secondly, again, it's going to be such a public safety risk. I mean, do you want your family driving in a car, a minivan, next to a vehicle not being operated by a human? I don't. I have 2 boys, and I, you know, would hate to think that they're vulnerable to a malfunction in a computer. And lastly, the infrastructure. I mean, how many times, and you've been around a long time, Senator, well-respected, have you fought long and hard to improve infrastructure, especially in your state? Now, if we allow all these autonomous vehicles to run wild, it's going to destroy that infrastructure that we, as taxpayers, have all invested in over the last several decades. And I think the most important thing, and I'll say it again, is the jobs. Where do these people go if you eliminate 3 million jobs? And people may not think, or there's testimony here, it's not happening for a long time. Don't kid yourself. If big tech could have this done tomorrow, and these corporations could operate without human operators, without paying wages, benefits, that would happen tomorrow.
So, Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Spear, both of y'all have called for a federal framework for autonomous vehicles. I want to ask each of you, what are the most important 2 or 3 elements in any federal framework? Mr. Spear, you can go first.
Well, I think interstate commerce. You've got to protect it. We need one standard, not 50. Right now, you have 16 states that have automated vehicle laws on the books. We're developing technologies that I think are going to really be forward-leaning in terms of productivity and what it can do for the supply chain in levels 1 through 4. We're a ways out from full autonomy. You might see it, as I said earlier, in the Southwest, but nationwide, I just don't see it in the near future. But to get there, you've got to develop it.
A ways out? How would you quantify that?
I'd say probably 10, 15 years out. But it's always described as threat to jobs, threat to jobs. I go back to the ports example. 65 ports in this country, not one of them ranks in the top 50 for efficiency and productivity. This president wants to take things to a whole nother level. Grow this economy. We're going to need both jobs and autonomy. We're going to need technologies to get that throughput in and out of those ports and on our roads to where it needs to go. You're going to need both those hard-working union jobs, and you're going to need technology to assist them. This is assuming the economy remains stagnant, that we've got to wrap our bubble wrap around all these jobs to protect them. No, we don't. They're gonna be there. We need more throughput to grow the economy. We're just not gonna be able to do it by adding more people. You're gonna have to add technology to get efficiency. It's that simple. You need both.
So, Mr. O'Brien, top 2 or 3 elements in a federal framework for AVs.
We need human operators in these vehicles. And if it's true what he's saying, if you're gonna replace a human operator in a commercial vehicle, where does that person go? Where is that job gone? And I'm all for efficiencies. I don't think I don't want you to think that we are not for efficiencies. And I'm familiar with the ILA agreement on the East Coast. I sit on the Port Authority board at the Massachusetts Port Authority, which you know as well. But there's efficiencies built in there, but there's also job protections as a result of implementation of this technology, which further gives credibility on when you sit down and negotiate a collective bargaining agreement, you can embrace the technology and also the efficiencies, but you also can protect and create new jobs as a result of this technology. So I think second priority would be, upon implementation, you create opportunities and jobs as a result of this technology.
For more clips like this, stay tuned to Converse Clips, and thanks for watching.